11 days before my stepdaughter's wedding, my husband placed a printed sheet of paper beside my breakfast plate. At first, I thought it was another vendor list. Then I read the heading. Rules for Claire at Lily's wedding. There were 5 of them. Rule 1. I would enter through the side door after the immediate family had already been seated. Rule 2. I would wear gray instead of the champagne-colored dress Lily and I had chosen together 6 months earlier. Rule 3. I would not appear in the formal family photographs. Rule 4. I would introduce myself as Thomas's wife, never as Lily's mother or stepmother. And finally, Rule 5. I would not tell anyone that I had paid for the wedding. I read the list twice. Then I folded it carefully and placed it beside my untouched coffee. Thomas watched me from across the kitchen table. "This isn't meant to hurt you," he said. I looked at the man I had been married to for 14 years. That is an interesting thing to say after handing someone instructions on how to disappear. He rubbed his forehead impatiently. "It's one day, Claire. One day that I planned, funded and spent 10 months preparing. You volunteered to help. I paid $84,000. His jaw tightened. "And everyone appreciates it." "Who is everyone?" He looked toward the window. That was when I understood. The rules had not come from Lily. They had come from her biological mother, Monica. The woman who had missed 12 birthdays, Lily's high school graduation and almost every difficult moment in between. The same woman who had suddenly returned 6 months before the wedding wearing designer clothes, carrying expensive gifts and speaking as though she had never left. Thomas reached for my hand. I moved it away. "Monica wants the photographs to feel natural," he said. "Natural? She is Lily's mother. And what am I?" He hesitated. That pause answered more honestly than any sentence could have. I stood and carried my coffee to the sink. Behind me, Thomas sighed. "Please don't make this harder than it has to be." I turned around. "You're asking me to attend a wedding where I'm not allowed to enter with the family, sit with the family, appear in photographs or acknowledge that I helped raise the bride. That isn't what the list says." "That is exactly what the list says. It's about avoiding conflict." "For whom?" "For Lily." I studied his face. Did she ask for these rules? Thomas looked away again. Everyone agreed they would make the day easier. Everyone except me. "You're being emotional." "No." I dried my hands slowly. "I'm being informed." He pushed his chair back. "What does that mean?" "It means I won't be attending." His expression changed. Not guilt. Panic. "You can't do that. You just gave me 5 reasons why I shouldn't be there. People will ask questions. Then tell them the truth." "What truth?" "That my presence interfered with the family photograph you wanted." "Claire, stop." He stood and lowered his voice. "The wedding is at Willowmere. The guests know the estate belongs to you. The planners know you organized everything. If you don't attend, it will look strange." I almost smiled. "So I'm important enough to prevent embarrassment, but not important enough to be included? That isn't fair. Neither is the list." He looked down at the paper. "I should never have printed it." "No. I'm glad you did." He looked up. "Why?" "Because people often hide cruelty inside polite conversations." I picked up the paper. "You were kind enough to put yours in writing. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 42 years old and Willowmere Estate had belonged to the women in my family for almost 90 years. It was not a castle or a mansion, although wedding magazines often photographed it that way. It was a large stone house surrounded by 20 acres of maple trees, gardens and open fields outside Richmond, Virginia. My grandmother raised me there. When she died, she left the estate to me. For several years, I ran it as a private event venue while continuing my work as a landscape designer. Weddings paid for the repairs. The gardens protected my sanity. Thomas came into my life when I was 28. He was handsome, recently divorced and raising a 10-year-old daughter named Lily. On our 3rd date, he warned me that Lily would always come first. I told him that was exactly where a child belonged. Monica had left the year before. She said motherhood had swallowed her identity. She moved to Los Angeles, promised to call every weekend and gradually stopped calling at all. I never tried to replace her. I never asked Lily to call me mom. I simply showed up. I attended parent conferences. I taught her how to drive in my grandmother's old blue station wagon. I sat beside her through a broken wrist, a broken heart, and the night she received her first college rejection. When she finally got into her dream university, Thomas cried for 10 minutes. I spent the next 4 years quietly paying the portion of her tuition he could not afford. Lily knew I helped. He did not know how much. I never wanted gratitude to become a debt between us. When she became engaged to a thoughtful young architect named Noah, she called me before she called anyone else. "Can we have the wedding at Willowmere?" she asked. Her voice trembled with excitement. I stood in the garden, surrounded by roses my grandmother had planted. "I thought you would never ask." For the next 10 months, Lily and I planned everything together. We selected ivory roses and pale green eucalyptus. We tasted 7 different cakes. We argued affectionately over table linens. She tried on 23 dresses before choosing one with a simple silk skirt and tiny pearl buttons down the back. When she stepped onto the platform wearing it, she looked at me through the mirror. "I wish you'd been there when I was little," she whispered. I swallowed the ache in my throat. "I'm here now." She reached for my hand. "That's what matters." At least I believed it did. Then Monica returned. She appeared at Lily's bridal shower wearing a white dress and carrying a bracelet that supposedly belonged to Lily's grandmother. Lily cried when she saw her. Thomas did too. I stood near the gift table holding a tray of champagne and watched the family reunion happen around me. At first I was happy for Lily. Every daughter deserves the chance to hear why her mother left. Every abandoned child secretly wonders whether the person who disappeared will eventually return and say the absence was a terrible mistake. Monica said all the right things. She had been young. She had been frightened. She had spent years regretting her decisions. She had stayed away because she believed Lily was better without her. None of it explained why she had ignored letters, invitations, and photographs for more than a decade. But Lily wanted to believe her. So I did not interfere. I invited Monica to the dress fittings. I added her name to the bridal shower invitations. When she suggested walking beside Thomas during the processional, I agreed. When she wanted to give the mother of the bride's speech, I remained silent. Every concession was presented as temporary. One moment. One photograph. One special tradition. Then the concessions began erasing me. The first change came 3 months before the wedding. Lily called to say Monica wanted the champagne dress I had selected. "Would you mind wearing something else?" she asked. I was surprised, but I said yes. The second change arrived a week later. The photographer sent a revised family photo schedule. My name was missing from every group. When I asked Thomas about it, he blamed the photographer. The third change concerned the ceremony seating. Instead of sitting in the front row beside Thomas, I had been assigned a chair near the back beside 2 distant cousins I had never met. Each time I questioned something, Thomas used the same sentence. "Let's keep the peace for Lily." Peace, I slowly realized, always required my silence. Monica sacrificed nothing. Thomas risked nothing. Lily was protected from every uncomfortable conversation. And I was expected to smile while becoming invisible inside an event taking place on my own property. The morning after Thomas gave me the 5 rules, I called my attorney. Rachel Morrison had handled Willowmere's business contracts for nearly 8 years. She answered before the second ring. "Please tell me you're calling about something cheerful." My husband gave me written instructions for attending his daughter's wedding. That does not sound cheerful. I'm not allowed to tell anyone I paid for it. Rachel became quiet. "How much have you paid?" "Approximately $84,000. "From which account?" "The Willowmere operating account and my personal savings." "Did Thomas contribute?" "He said he would reimburse $20,000 after selling an investment." "Did he?" "No." "Did Lily contribute?" "She and Noah paid for their clothing, invitations, and honeymoon." Rachel paused. "Why does Thomas care whether people know you funded the wedding?" I assumed he was embarrassed. "Perhaps." Her tone changed. "But embarrassment rarely requires a written rule." I sat straighter. "What are you thinking?" "Send me every wedding invoice, vendor contract, and bank statement." "Rachel, I'm not trying to destroy Lily's wedding." "I didn't say you were. The wedding can still happen. Then we'll make sure the money intended for the wedding actually went to the wedding." That sentence stayed with me. After ending the call, I entered the small office behind Willowmere's kitchen. The wedding files occupied 2 large binders. Flowers. Catering. Music. Lighting. Rentals. Photography. Every contract was organized by date. My grandmother taught me that beautiful events survived because someone paid attention to unattractive details. I began comparing invoices to bank transactions. At first, everything matched. The florist had received her deposit. The caterer had been paid. The tent company's balance was due after the event. Then I found a payment I did not recognize. $12,500. Monroe Event Consulting. I searched the vendor binder. There was no contract for Monroe Event Consulting. I opened the banking record. The transfer had been authorized using Thomas's access code. 3 weeks later, another payment had been sent. $9,800. Then another. $14,000. The total was $36,300. My hands became cold. I searched the company name online. Monroe Event Consulting had been created 5 months earlier in California. Its registered owner was Monica Monroe, Lily's mother. Thomas had transferred more than $36,000 from my business account to his ex-wife. I called Rachel. "Don't confront him," she said immediately. "He gave my money to Monica. We need to know why." "There is no acceptable reason." "No," Rachel agreed. "But there may be a larger one." I printed the transaction records and locked them inside my desk. That evening, Thomas returned home carrying a garment bag. He placed it across the back of a dining chair. "What's that?" I asked. "Pie suit." "You already bought a suit." Monica said navy would look better in the photographs. Of course she did. He opened the refrigerator and removed a bottle of sparkling water. "Have you reconsidered?" "No." His shoulders tightened. "Lily expects you to be there." "Has Lily called me?" "She's busy." "Has she seen the 5 rules?" He closed the refrigerator. "Why are you turning this into an interrogation?" I asked a simple question. "She knows there were concerns." "That isn't an answer." Thomas leaned against the counter. "Claire, Monica lost years with her daughter. She is trying to repair that relationship." "By removing me?" "No one is removing you. I'm not permitted in the photographs." "Photographs are not relationships." "You're right." I held his gaze. Bank records are much more revealing. For 1 second he stopped breathing. Then his expression softened into confusion. "What does that mean?" "I reviewed the wedding expenses today." He placed the bottle on the counter. "You shouldn't be worrying about bills this close to the ceremony." I found 3 payments to Monroe Event Consulting. Silence settled through the kitchen. Thomas looked toward the hallway. I watched him calculate. Finally, he said, "Monica has been helping with planning. She attended 2 dress fittings. She's done more behind the scenes." "Then show me her contract." "It was informal." $36,000 is not informal. His voice became sharper. "You approved the wedding budget." "I approved legitimate wedding expenses." "She arranged guest transportation and publicity." "What publicity?" "The magazine feature." "There is no magazine feature." "There may be." I stared at him. "Did Monica ask you to give me those rules?" Thomas picked up his bottle again. "This conversation is becoming ridiculous. You paid your ex-wife with my money and then instructed me not to tell anyone I funded the wedding. I plan to replace it." "With what?" He said nothing. The same cold stillness I had felt while reading the rules returned. The wedding was not the entire problem. It was the stage Thomas and Monica were using to hide something else. I walked upstairs, entered our bedroom and removed the champagne dress from my closet. It was the dress Lily and I had chosen together before Monica returned. I placed it gently inside a garment box. Then I added a second item. A small velvet case containing my grandmother's pearl earrings. I had promised them to Lily on her wedding day. For several minutes I stood beside the box wondering whether love required me to keep giving after respect had disappeared. Then I closed the lid. The next morning I mailed one final gift to Lily. Inside the package were the dress, the pearls and a handwritten letter. But underneath the letter was something Thomas did not know I possessed. A copy of every transfer he had made to Monica. And a sealed envelope containing the legal document that would determine who actually had the right to use Willowmere on the wedding day. The package was scheduled to arrive 90 minutes before the ceremony. By then the flowers would be arranged. The guests would be seated. Monica would be wearing the champagne dress intended for me. and Thomas would be preparing to make an announcement about the generous gift he claimed he was giving the bride and groom. He had no idea that my gift would arrive first. On the morning of Lily's wedding, I woke before sunrise. For 14 years, every major family event had begun with someone calling my name. Claire, where are the flowers? Claire, the caterer has a question. Claire, Lily's dress needs steaming. That morning no one called. The house remained silent. Thomas had spent the night at Willowmere with the wedding party. I stayed in the small apartment above my design studio 30 minutes away. At 6:12 his first message arrived. You need to reconsider. At 6:19 another followed. Lily will never forgive you for abandoning her today. I stared at the word abandoning. Monica had missed most of Lily's childhood, yet Thomas had never used that word for her. Apparently, absence only became abandonment when I was the person choosing it. I placed my phone face down. At 7 Rachel arrived carrying coffee and a thick folder. You look calm, she said. I'm trying to decide whether that's strength or shock. It can be both. She placed the folder on my desk. Thomas did more than transfer money to Monica. I looked at her. What did you find? Yesterday afternoon, Willowmere's bank received a request for property verification. For what? A proposed business loan. My stomach tightened. How much? $1.2 million. I stood slowly. Willowmere isn't collateral for any loan. I know. Rachel opened the folder. The application listed a new business. Monroe Bennett Luxury Events. Thomas was named managing partner. Monica was named creative director. And Willowmere Estate was described as the company's primary operating property. I turned the page. Attached was an unsigned management agreement giving their company exclusive rights to host events at Willowmere for 15 years. They planned to take over my venue. Rachel nodded. The lender hadn't approved anything. Thomas still needed proof that you had consented. How was he planning to get it? She removed another document. It was printed on expensive cream-colored paper. At the top in elegant gold lettering were the words, "A wedding gift for Lily and Noah." The document appeared to transfer the management of Willowmere to a family company supposedly created for Lily and Noah. But buried inside the language was a clause appointing Thomas as controlling manager. Lily and Noah would have received ceremonial ownership. Thomas and Monica would have controlled the income, loans, and business decisions. My name appeared at the bottom. A blank line waited for my signature. He was going to present this at the reception, Rachel said. In front of the guests. Yes. I finally understood the 5 rules. Thomas did not merely want me quiet. He wanted me ashamed, isolated, and desperate to prove I still belonged. He expected me to sit at the back of the wedding, excluded from photographs, while he publicly announced that I was giving Willowmere to the bride and groom. If I refused to sign, I would look selfish. If I signed without reading carefully, Thomas would control the estate. Monica's consulting payments had not been for flowers or transportation. She had been preparing the business launch. The wedding was their advertisement. I looked at Rachel. Can they use Willowmere today? The ceremony and reception may continue because you promised the venue to Lily and Noah. I don't want to punish them. I know. Rachel slid another document toward me. This is the license you placed inside Lily's gift. It granted Lily and Noah full use of Willowmere for their wedding day. But it clearly stated that Thomas had no authority to represent the estate. No business announcement involving Willowmere could be made. No property or management document could be presented for signature. Anyone interfering with the couple's licensed use could be removed by security. The wedding belonged to Lily and Noah. Not Thomas. Not Monica. And not me. What happens after today? I asked. We deal with the money, the attempted loan, and your marriage. I looked out the window. The sky was clear. Exactly the weather Lily had hoped for. At least she'll have her wedding. Rachel studied me. You still love her. I didn't stop loving her because her father forgot how. At 12:30 the courier arrived at Willowmere. I knew because the tracking notification appeared on my phone. The package had been signed for by Lily's maid of honor. For the next 20 minutes nothing happened. Then Lily called. I stared at her name until the phone nearly stopped ringing. Finally I answered. Claire. Her voice was shaking. Yes. Where are you? At my studio. Why did you send me your dress? It was always connected to this day. I wanted you to decide what happened to it. And the pearls. I promised them to you. She began crying. I read your letter. I closed my eyes. The letter had taken me 3 attempts to write. It said, Lily, I have loved you since you were 10 years old. I never needed you to call me your mother. I only needed to know that the years we shared were real. I will not attend a wedding where I must enter through a side door and pretend I had no part in your life. But I will not take your wedding away from you either. The venue, flowers, food, music and every promise I made remain yours today. The pearls are yours because love should not become punishment. The remaining documents are not a gift. They are the truth. What you do with that truth is your decision. Lily took a shaky breath. Did Dad really send money to Monica? Yes. $36,000? Yes. He told me she paid for the wedding magazine feature. There is no confirmed magazine feature. And this business agreement? I learned about it this morning. He was going to announce that you gave us Willowmere. I never agreed to give away the estate. Lily became silent. In the background I could hear doors opening and people speaking. Did you know about the 5 rules? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Dad told me Monica felt uncomfortable. That isn't what I asked. I knew about the dress and the photographs. And the side entrance? No. The seating. He said you preferred sitting farther back because you'd need to supervise the staff. I almost laughed. Even my exclusion had been presented as another service I wanted to provide. Lily, I am not asking you to choose between people today. But you aren't coming. No. Her crying became quieter. I thought you would understand. I understood every request. Then why? Because understanding why someone hurts you does not require you to help them do it. She said nothing. I continued gently. You deserve a beautiful wedding. You also deserve to know what was being planned in your name. Did Dad know about the package? No. Does he know I have the documents? Not yet. Lily ended the call 12 minutes before the photographer was scheduled to begin family portraits. At Willowmere, Monica was standing inside the bridal suite wearing a champagne-colored gown almost identical to the one Lily and I had chosen for me. She had ordered it after asking me to change mine. Lily later told me that seeing my original dress folded inside the box made the imitation suddenly look cruel. Thomas entered the room carrying a stack of speech cards. Why aren't you dressed? He asked Lily. She stood beside the window holding the transfer records. Noah stood near her. He had already read everything. What is Monroe Bennett Luxury Events? Lily asked. Thomas stopped. Monica's eyes moved toward the papers. Where did you get those? That isn't an answer, Noah said. Thomas recovered quickly. It's a future business opportunity. Using Willowmere? Lily asked. Your wedding was going to introduce the venue to a larger market. The venue already has a business. Claire lacks vision. Lily looked at him. She built it. Thomas placed the speech cards on a table. This is not the time for financial discussions. You transferred her money to Monica. They were legitimate planning fees. Monica stepped closer. I arranged publicity, guest transportation and several brand opportunities. Lily held up the bank records. $36,000? Quality work is expensive. You weren't hired by Claire. Your father authorized it. From Claire's company. Monica's face hardened. Claire is trying to ruin your day because she cannot accept that I'm your mother. Lily stared at her. You missed my high school graduation. Monica's expression changed. That has nothing to do with today. You didn't answer when I called you after my first miscarriage. The room became silent. Thomas looked at Lily. I had not known about the miscarriage until months afterward. Lily had asked me not to tell him because she believed he would panic. Monica folded her arms. I was dealing with personal issues. Claire flew across the country that night. She has always wanted to replace me. No. Lily shook her head slowly. She never asked me to call her mom. You arrived 6 months ago and immediately started telling everyone you were taking your place back. Monica's face reddened. I gave birth to you. And Claire raised me. Thomas stepped between them. Enough. Guests are arriving. Lily looked at the speech cards. What were you planning to announce? Thomas followed her gaze. A gift. From whom? From the family. Noah picked up one of the cards and began reading. His expression darkened. Claire and I are proud to transfer Willowmere into a new family partnership for Lily and Noah. Lily looked at her father. Claire didn't approve this. She would have. You were going to pressure her in front of 200 people. Thomas lowered his voice. She has no children of her own. Eventually the estate would have come to you. The sentence landed like a slap even though I was not there to hear it. Lily's face changed. So that's what you told yourself? Thomas frowned. What? That because Claire doesn't have biological children, you were entitled to decide what happened to her home? I was protecting your future. You were protecting your business. Monica reached for the documents. Lily pulled them away. This is becoming hysterical. No, Lily said. It's becoming clear. Thomas looked at the clock. The ceremony starts in 40 minutes. We are not changing plans now. Lily walked toward the door. Yes, we are. He followed her into the hallway. What are you doing? Fixing my wedding. The event coordinator Maria Delgado was waiting outside. She had managed weddings at Willowmere for 5 years and trusted written instructions more than family promises. Lily handed her the venue license. Claire says this gives Noah and me control of the property today. Maria read the first page. It does. Then remove the business announcement from the reception. Already done. Thomas stared at her. What do you mean already done? Ms. Bennett's attorney contacted me this morning. Maria remained calm. No property-related speeches, documents or presentations are permitted. This is my daughter's wedding. Today's venue license belongs to your daughter and Mr. Carter. Thomas's face darkened. I helped organize this event. Maria looked at Lily. Would you like your father to retain decision-making authority? Lily stared at him for several seconds. No. Thomas stepped backward as though she had struck him. Monica spoke sharply. You're choosing Claire over your own parents. Lily looked at her champagne dress. Then she looked toward the box containing mine. No. I'm choosing the people who didn't make my wedding part of a business scheme. Monica's voice became cold. After everything I've done to return to your life? You were paid $36,000 to return. That money had nothing to do with our relationship. Then give it back. Monica said nothing. The silence answered for her. Lily turned to Maria. My father will attend as a guest. Thomas stared at her. You expect me to sit quietly? Yes. I am supposed to walk you down the aisle. Lily looked toward Noah, then at the open doors leading to the garden. No, she said. You were supposed to act like my father before we reached the aisle. Thomas's face lost all color. You can't mean that. I'm walking alone. Monica grabbed her handbag. If you humiliate your father like this, I'm leaving. Lily looked at her calmly. You know where the side door is. For several seconds no one moved. Then Monica turned and walked toward the staircase. Thomas remained in the hallway. The photographer appeared at the far end carrying her camera. We're ready for family photographs, she said carefully. Lily looked at the revised list. Monica had placed herself in every major group. My name appeared nowhere. Lily picked up a pen. She crossed out Monica's name. Then she wrote mine at the top. The photographer looked confused. Miss Bennett isn't here. I know. Lily held the original champagne dress against her chest. But she is still my family. 20 minutes before the ceremony, Lily sent me a photograph. She was standing alone in the bridal suite wearing her wedding dress and my grandmother's pearls. My champagne dress hung behind her. Under the photograph she wrote, I'm sorry I let them make you invisible. I stared at the message until tears blurred the screen. Then another photograph arrived. It showed Thomas's prepared announcement lying in a fireplace, its edges burning. A final message followed. The wedding will continue. But their plan ends today. I believed that would be the last surprise. I was wrong. Because while Lily was preparing to walk down the aisle alone, Rachel received a call from Willowmere's bank. Thomas had not only attempted to borrow against my estate. 2 days earlier he had submitted a second document. A document carrying what appeared to be my notarized signature. According to that document, I had already transferred partial ownership of Willowmere to my husband. And this time, Thomas had not left the signature line blank. He had signed my name himself. At 3:17 on the afternoon of Lily's wedding, while she stood beneath the maple trees preparing to walk down the aisle, Rachel called me from Willowmere's bank. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "Claire, Thomas submitted a property transfer document 2 days ago." I stood beside the window of my studio apartment. "What kind of transfer?" "It claims you gave him a 25% ownership interest in Willowmere." For several seconds I could not speak. "That's impossible." "I know. My signature isn't on anything like that." "There is a signature." A cold pressure settled behind my ribs. "And it was notarized." I gripped the phone. "Who notarized it?" "A woman named Elaine Porter." I knew the name. Elaine worked as an administrative assistant inside Thomas's investment office. She had attended our Christmas dinners. She had sent me birthday cards. Once, when her mother became ill, I recommended a specialist. Rachel continued. "The bank became suspicious because the notary date shows you signed the document last Thursday at 3 in the afternoon." "I was at Willowmere with the florist." "Exactly. There are employees, delivery records and security footage confirming it." I closed my eyes. The wedding music had probably begun by now. Guests would be facing the garden. Lily would be walking alone. And somewhere inside the estate, Thomas was sitting among those guests knowing he had attempted to steal a portion of the ground beneath their feet. "What happens now?" I asked. "The bank has frozen the application. I'm notifying the county recording office and requesting that the document be flagged as disputed." "Was it already recorded?" "It was submitted electronically, but it has not been finalized." I exhaled slowly. "So he failed." "At taking ownership today, yes." Rachel paused. "But forging a notarized property document is much more serious than moving money between accounts." I looked toward the garment box on my desk. The champagne dress was gone. The pearls were with Lily. The truth had arrived at Willowmere before I did. "Will this affect the wedding?" "Not unless Thomas creates a scene." "He already has. Maria says he's currently seated in the 3rd row with security nearby." I almost smiled. 3rd row. Not the place he expected to occupy. "Let Lily have her ceremony," I said. "That's what Maria is doing. And after, we decide whether Thomas leaves Willowmere voluntarily." I looked at my reflection in the window. For most of my marriage I had confused patience with loyalty. I told myself love meant giving a person enough time to become better. But time had not improved Thomas. It had only taught him how much I would tolerate. "No," I said. Rachel became quiet. "No what?" "We don't ask him to leave voluntarily." I picked up my car keys. "We remove him." The ceremony had already begun when I arrived at Willowmere. I parked behind the greenhouse, away from the guests, and entered through the service corridor. The same side entrance Thomas had assigned to me. For a moment I stood there looking at the narrow hallway. Boxes of candles lined one wall. Extra chairs stood against the other. Staff members moved quickly between the kitchen and garden. This was where Thomas believed I belonged. Useful. Hidden. Close enough to solve problems, but far enough not to appear in photographs. Maria saw me first. She crossed the corridor and wrapped both arms around me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You have nothing to apologize for." She stepped back. "The ceremony is beautiful. Is Lily all right?" She walked alone. My heart tightened. "And Thomas?" 3rd row. He tried to stand when she reached the aisle. "What happened?" Noah's father asked him to sit down. That image gave me a small amount of satisfaction. Not joy. Just balance. Maria lowered her voice. "Monica left." "When?" "About 15 minutes before the ceremony." "Did Thomas go after her?" "No. Of course he hadn't. Monica had been useful while she believed their plan would succeed. Once the money and control disappeared, Thomas chose the room where he still had an audience. Rachel appeared at the far end of the hallway carrying a folder. She wore a dark green dress beneath her coat. "I didn't expect you to come." "I'm not here for the ceremony." She understood immediately. "The forged transfer?" "Yes." We entered the estate office and closed the door. Rachel placed the document in front of me. At first glance the signature looked convincing. My full name. The long curve beneath the last letter. The small upward stroke I used at the end. Then I noticed the date. Thomas had copied the signature from an old insurance agreement signed 7 years earlier. I knew because my handwriting had changed after breaking my right wrist. He had copied an old version of me. Even his forgery belonged to a woman who no longer existed. Elaine claims she saw you sign this, Rachel said. She didn't. She may say Thomas told her you had already agreed. Does that protect her? No. I read the language carefully. 25% ownership. Authority to negotiate commercial loans. Permission to enter management agreements. With one document, Thomas had attempted to turn my inheritance into his business asset. Why only 25%? I asked. Because a full transfer would have attracted more scrutiny. Rachel pointed to a clause. With partial ownership, he could claim authority to negotiate on behalf of the estate while challenging you in court over management control. He wanted enough to create a dispute. Yes. And while the dispute continued, he would operate the business. That appears to be the plan. A soft cheer rose from the garden. Lily and Noah had been pronounced married. I looked toward the window. For 10 months I had imagined standing beside Lily after that moment. Adjusting her veil. Holding her bouquet. Telling her that my grandmother would have loved the person she had become. Instead, I was inside the office reading evidence that her father had tried to steal my home. Rachel closed the folder. Security can escort Thomas out after the photographs. No. He studied me. You want him removed now? I want Lily to decide. This should not become her responsibility. It already became her wedding. I called her. She answered after the second ring. Claire. Guests were applauding in the background. I'm at Willowmere. You came. I'm inside the office. Her voice changed. Why didn't you tell me? Because today still belongs to you. She became quiet. What happened? I looked at Rachel. There's another document. Lily arrived 10 minutes later with Noah. She was still wearing her veil. My grandmother's pearls rested against her neck. When she entered the office, neither of us spoke. Then she crossed the room and wrapped her arms around me. I held her carefully, afraid of crushing the silk and pearls. I'm sorry, she whispered. I closed my eyes. I know. No, you don't. I let them convince me that asking you to disappear was kindness. I pulled back. You wanted peace. I wanted an easy day. Her eyes filled with tears. And I made you pay for it. Noah closed the office door behind them. Rachel placed the forged document on the desk. Lily read the first page. Then the second. Her face became pale. He signed your name? Yes. And Elaine notarized it? That is what the document claims. Noah read over her shoulder. This gives him control over loans. Yes. Lily sat down slowly. All the happiness from the ceremony seemed to drain from her face. He did this before the wedding? 2 days ago. He planned to announce the transfer today so people would believe it was real. That is likely. She looked toward the garden. My father is outside accepting congratulations. No one answered. Lily removed her veil and placed it carefully across the back of a chair. What do you need me to do? Nothing, I said. No. She stood. You have done nothing for me my entire life. I frowned. She corrected herself. You did everything quietly. Tuition. Holidays. Hospital bills. This wedding. You made sure I never felt like I owed you. Her voice shook. And I rewarded you by asking you to sit in the back. Lily. No. Let me finish. She wiped her tears. I don't want silence to protect him anymore. Rachel spoke gently. Your father needs to be informed that the document has been challenged and that he must leave the property. Lily nodded. I'll tell him. You don't have to, I said. Yes, I do. She looked at Noah. This is our wedding. He took her hand. And Willowmere is Claire's home. We found Thomas near the reception tent speaking to Noah's parents. He held a glass of champagne and smiled as though the morning had unfolded exactly as planned. When he saw me, his smile disappeared. You came. I own the venue. His eyes moved toward Rachel. Then toward the folder in Lily's hands. What is this? Lily stopped several feet away. The property document. Thomas's expression remained still. But his grip tightened around the glass. I don't know what you're talking about. Rachel held out a copy. The document you submitted claiming partial ownership of Willowmere. Noah's parents quietly stepped away. A few nearby guests began watching. Thomas lowered his voice. This is not the place. Lily looked around. You chose this place. Lily, go enjoy your reception. No. He stared at her. She continued. You used my wedding to pressure Claire into giving you her property. That is not what happened. You transferred her money to Monica. Those were business expenses. You created a company with Monica. For your future. I never asked for it. His face hardened. You don't understand how difficult it is to build something for a family. Lily looked at me. Then back at him. Claire built this. I helped her. You tried to take it. Thomas turned toward me. You are poisoning her against me. I almost laughed. The same man who had written rules for my disappearance now wanted to accuse me of controlling the room. I didn't write the document, I said. His eyes flickered. Rachel noticed. So you admit knowing about it? She asked. I didn't say that. Did you submit it to the bank? My attorney will respond. Good, Rachel said. Because the bank has preserved the application. Thomas looked toward the reception tent. You are destroying Lily's wedding. Lily stepped closer. No. The wedding already happened. She pointed toward the garden. I married Noah. The people who love us were there. The flowers were beautiful. The vows were real. Her voice became firmer. You are the only thing being removed. Thomas stared at her. You're asking me to leave my daughter's wedding? Yes. His face went pale. I walked you through every part of your life. No. Lily shook her head. Claire did. The words landed harder than shouting could have. Thomas looked toward me. For one moment I saw something close to hatred. Not because I had taken his daughter. Because Lily had finally named the person who had stayed. He set his champagne glass on a nearby table. You'll regret humiliating me like this. I met his eyes. You handed me 5 rules for attending an event I paid for. My voice remained calm. You tried to make me invisible in my own home. Rachel held the disputed document against her chest. And then you forged my signature. I stepped aside as 2 security officers approached. You are not being humiliated, Thomas. I looked directly at him. You are being documented. He refused to move at first. Then he noticed the guests watching. Thomas cared deeply about appearances. That had always been his weakness. He adjusted his jacket and walked toward the house as though leaving had been his decision. Before reaching the corridor, he stopped beside Lily. I hope this was worth it. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. Choosing the truth usually is. Security escorted him through the side door. The same entrance he had chosen for me. The reception continued. Not perfectly. Real life rarely provides perfect endings on schedule. Some guests whispered. Others pretended not to notice. The band played. Dinner was served. Lily and Noah cut their cake beneath strings of warm lights. I remained inside the office for almost an hour. I did not want my appearance to become another spectacle. Then someone knocked. Lily stood in the doorway holding my champagne dress. I want you at the reception. I don't have anything to wear. She smiled through her tears. Yes, you do. I looked at the dress. Monica wore something almost identical. Monica left. She stepped inside. This one is yours. 20 minutes later, I entered the garden wearing the dress Lily and I had chosen together. The guests were seated. The band had stopped playing. For one uncomfortable second, every face turned toward me. Then Lily stood. She walked across the reception area and took my hand. No announcement. No explanation. She simply led me toward the front table. A chair had been placed beside hers. Thomas's name card was gone. Mine stood in its place. After dinner, Lily approached the microphone. My stomach tightened. She looked toward me. I planned a long speech, she said. But today taught me that important truths are usually simple. The guests became quiet. There are people who love you when it is convenient. She glanced briefly toward the empty chair where her father should have been. And there are people who love you through every inconvenient year. Her eyes returned to me. Claire never asked me to call her my mother. Her voice broke. But she was one every time I needed one. I lowered my head as the room blurred. Lily continued. The most valuable gift I received today was not this wedding, this estate, or the pearls around my neck. She touched the necklace. It was the truth about who had actually been standing beside me. She raised her glass. To the woman who never asked to be seen, but should never have been hidden. The guest stood. I did not feel victorious. Victory sounded too sharp for what I felt. I felt acknowledged. And after years of quiet giving, acknowledgement was almost overwhelming. The investigation into Thomas's actions lasted 8 months. Elaine eventually admitted she had notarized the document without witnessing my signature. She claimed Thomas told her I had already signed and urgently needed the filing completed. That explanation did not erase her responsibility. The false transfer was invalidated. The business loan application was permanently denied. Monica returned a portion of the money after Rachel filed claims against Monroe Event Consulting. The remaining funds became part of my divorce case. Thomas insisted the transfers had been investments. The records disagreed. He argued that I had verbally promised him future ownership in Willowmere. No witness supported him. He claimed our marriage entitled him to part of the estate. The deed, inheritance records, and prenuptial property clauses said otherwise. In the final settlement, Willowmere remained mine. My business remained mine. Thomas was ordered to repay funds taken without authorization and accepted legal consequences connected to the false document. His relationship with Monica ended before our divorce was finalized. I was not surprised. Some partnerships survive only while both people believe the reward is still coming. Lily did not speak to him for several months. Later she agreed to meet him in counseling. I did not ask what happened in those sessions. Forgiveness belonged to her. Boundaries belonged to me. She and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. Not through dramatic apologies. Through ordinary days. Sunday breakfasts. Phone calls. Walks through the garden. Once while helping me trim roses, she asked why I had still sent the pearls after learning about the money. Because they were promised to you, I said. You could have changed your mind. Yes. Why didn't you? I placed the shears on the stone wall. Because your father's behavior did not need to decide what kind of person I became. She looked down. I don't deserve you. Love is not a prize people earn by never failing. I touched her shoulder. But trust is rebuilt through what they do after they fail. She nodded. Then she picked up the shears and returned to work. 1 year after the wedding, Lily and Noah celebrated their anniversary at Willowmere. No large party. Just dinner beneath the maple trees with a few close friends. She wore my grandmother's pearls again. Before leaving, she handed me a small framed photograph. It was taken during the reception. Lily stood beside me in her wedding dress. I wore champagne. Our hands were linked. On the back she had written, "The woman who stayed." I placed the photograph in Willowmere's front hall. Not to prove I had won. There had been no competition. Monica was Lily's biological mother. I was the woman who raised her. Both facts could exist. What could not continue was the belief that love required one woman to disappear so another could feel important. Thomas gave me 5 rules for attending his daughter's wedding. In the end, I followed none of them. I did not enter quietly through the side door. I wore the dress Lily and I had chosen. I appeared in the most important photograph. I sat beside the bride. And I never had to tell anyone that I had paid for the wedding. By the time the evening ended, everyone understood who had given the most. But my final gift was not the money. It was not the venue. It was not even the pearls. It was the truth, delivered before Thomas could turn another lie into a public promise. Sometimes protecting your dignity means declining the invitation exactly as it was offered. Sometimes the most powerful seat at the table is the one people create after realizing they were wrong to exclude you. And sometimes the final gift you give someone is the information they need to stop mistaking manipulation for love. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Would you have attended under Thomas's 5 rules? Or would you have refused like Claire? And do you believe Lily was right to remove her father from the wedding? For more stories about betrayal, dignity, and women who finally stop allowing kindness to be used against them, subscribe to Revenges and stay with us.